And we are live here today with Kevin Simpson, who is the author of the latest best-selling book, Walk Toward Wealth. What's up, Kevin? Happy launch day, my friend.
How are you, Amber? Can you believe it? Day one. How about that?
Oh, look at this gorgeous book. Guys, okay, this book, you have to buy this book just so you can flip through it and see how gorgeous it is on the inside. It's not just a bunch of text. It's got these beautiful images and the typesetting and the call outs. Like, this is the way that a book needs to be produced in 2022 moving forward. So Kevin is here. We're going to spend the next 20 or 30 minutes digging into his story, his writing journey, his message, get some great nuggets and insights about his topic. I met Kevin just a few months ago, maybe 4 months ago, Kevin.
Yep.
Through a mutual colleague. I have to give a shout out to Justin Donald. Tomorrow is his 1-year anniversary of the launch of his book. In the last year since we launched his book, it became a Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling book, sold more than 50,000 copies in the last year. Justin's brand, The Lifestyle Investor. So we were having a similar conversation about a year ago, and I was fortunate enough that Justin introduced me over to Kevin. And from the minute I had that conversation with Kevin, I left and I thought, oh my gosh, I hope he says yes. Like, I hope he works with me, because there's something about Kevin. You guys will see this in the next 30 minutes, and he's not going to like me saying this. So I'm just going to tell you right now, he's not going to like this. But he's such a nice guy. He's humble, he's knowledgeable, and he really wants to give back. So Kevin, I'm going to turn it over to you. Could you give everybody just a brief summary or history? Talk about Capital Wealth, talk about how you transitioned into writing a book. What was the moment where you thought, there's a book in me? I'll let you take it.
Well, thank you for that introduction. And it was, kismet that we met, and we've got a big number to hit then if we're going to beat Justin's 50,000.
We got to beat him. We got to do it. Bye, people. Bye.
Game on. Writing a book is something that I never set out to do initially. Being in this business now for 30 years, it was a back of my mind thing where you live this life, and in the world of finance, there's so many stories, so many anecdotes, not just good lessons, but also bad successes, failures, things like that. And so often you think, oh, well, that would make a great book, or that would make a great story in a book. So I'd say, Amber, like 10 years ago, I sat down and we started putting some pen to paper and putting out together like a chapter outline and maybe some thoughts behind it. I've been writing a weekly commentary since 2009. So I'm accustomed to writing something on a deadline, but writing a short commentary, versus a book is a whole different story. And then I started thinking, well, a lot of these commentaries could be worked into chapters or worked into stories. And when there was a draft about 10 years ago, it was okay, but it wasn't the finished product that we have now. And when we dusted it off again, maybe 2 years ago, yeah, look at that.
Gorgeous book cover.
Thank you. I take no credit for any of the good parts. 2 years ago, kind of dusted off the old manuscript, thought about how we could put it together in a more fun, friendly, easier read. And sometimes math and finance can be boring, textbooky. So breaking it up with some stories. And it was interesting because a lot of the things that we had written, the examples, some of the stocks that we used in the book and some of the exchange traded fund examples that we use in the book are the same examples that I had put together 10 years ago. But it's fascinating and not much of a surprise that the price differences are so vast. I even put a blurb in here. I'm not sure exactly what page I could have looked beforehand, but I said 10 years ago when I was writing this about the SPY, let's say it was in the $100 range, and then it went up, 5-fold over the 10 years. So we were still able to employ all the same applications, but we should have written the book 10 years ago, and could have helped a lot more people through a strong bull market, right?
Yeah. So tell me more about Capital Wealth. Like, who exactly do you work with, and what can you do for them? Like, would I be a fit? Who would be a fit, so that even if you're an audience, you're watching right now and you're not a fit to work with Kevin, we can help him get the word out and help introduce him to more people that would be a good fit for his company.
Well, everyone's a fit to work with us. We're grateful and appreciative to help everyone. But specifically to your point, because I know where you're going with this, Amber, at Capital Wealth Planning, we don't work directly with the end user client. We facilitate and service financial advisors around the country. So our client base is the financial advisor. And then through that relationship, when we're lucky enough to work with great financial advisors around the country, they will then refer some of their clients' assets for us to manage in discretionary pools, SMAs, or within an ETF structure. But the idea is that we don't interact directly with the end user. We interact with the financial advisors. And I will tell you, a few times a day, I'm lucky enough to get on a conference call with the financial advisor and the client. And it's the most fun thing.
That would
talking
be
with
fun.
NG, and I know of your team, but it's the most fun I ever get to have during the day, because I'm actually engaging with someone who's benefiting from our strategies, and really to hear the stories. And maybe that's fodder for the next book, but just to kind of hear stories about how people have accumulated their wealth, how they've worked with their financial advisors to get to these wonderful achievements, and then for us to come in and help both them, their families, and their financial advisors. It's the coolest thing.
I love that idea. I can totally see that being a second book, by the way. So look at that, everybody. You just were here the minute a great idea was born.
Yeah, it seems like a cop-out because I don't have to write anything. We can just borrow other people's stories, right?
Well, I know, but that's leverage. You've already done all of the hard work, right? I mean, so now you have this framework that you can give to facilitate healthier relationships. I mean, we all know that is really needed right now in the marketplace. So nobody else can take this idea. It's Kevin's. He owns it. So Capital Wealth started back in 2005, correct?
We did. It was a lot smaller back in 2005, but since that time, we have amassed just an incredible team. We started off with 3 people. There's now over 20 people that work at Capital Wealth Planning. And 2005 wasn't that long ago. I mean, you're super young. I don't even know if you were born or out of junior high back then.
NG started in 2007, bro. So not too far off.
And you were 10?
Come on.
So we manage now, just this weekend, or over $5 billion of assets that we manage for other clients. Yeah. So, which is amazing. And to think about how it started, it was like, I don't know if you ever watched the show The Office, but
I love that show.
Did you ever see the episode where he started the Michael Scott Paper Company down in the janitor's closet? If you don't remember,
comment if you have seen that spot. Somebody's got to put like a GIF down in the comments, YouTube clip. Come on, your favorite office clip right now. That's hilarious. Yes.
So Capital Wealth Planning's early days were not that much different than the Michael J. Scott Paper Company. In fact, we would often that was sort of the reference that we would use at the time. In fact, he may have even had more resources, having the ability to get Dunder Mifflin paper. But that, like any firm, you start off small in the back of a car. You have an idea. I had a pedigree. I didn't get into business in 2005. I started in 1992, so I had incredible training, amazing mentors. Knew a little bit about how we could kind of change the structure of what we wanted to do. But many failures along the way. I don't think I wrote about those. So if you read the book, it's a lot better story. Yeah, I think I had to fail 2 or 3 times, like serious.
He's kidding.
Failures. Yeah. Well, take notes. We have book 3, but just really being very lucky, right place, right time, and surrounding myself with very smart people, and then taking advantage of those opportunities. In life they come along, and I create. And take no credit for any of this success, except for the fact that I was lucky enough to be around great people who helped me along the way.
Isn't that so nice? I love that. You know me, I'm all about relationships, connections, paying it forward, helping other people. And that's what our audience is all about as well. So this is really meaningful to see people's growth, where you came from, where you are today, speaking on CNBC. You've got this book out. You're very successful. And you're giving back, which we're going to talk about in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm really proud to reveal to you Kevin's brand here. KevinSimpson.com is where you can go. Now, this is a separate website from Capital Wealth Planning. So we can put links in the chat below, of course, but this is a site that I was lucky enough to build with Kevin. I really appreciated your trust and our vision, Kevin, for this, because I think the website just turned out really well. And I want to give a nod over to Marac Publishing. So thank you for your trust in using them as a vendor and a source for publishing your book. The cover, I get raves about this cover, Kevin, because I'm constantly showing off this website because I think it's gorgeous. I love your branding. And without a doubt, every single time a prospect, a client comes in, they always comment about how show-stopping that cover is. Really, it's great.
Somehow we need to get your makeup and lighting people in here for future videos. Because yeah, that guy looks really handsome.
Oh, yeah, I love this. You can come see some of his clips here. I'm just kind of skimming through this a little bit. We do have a lot of authors that are going to be watching this right now, Kevin. And I really would like to say this is the model to follow right here, which might be weird for Kevin to hear, but just hang tight there, Kevin. This is the model to follow. And inside, you'll see it links over to the actual book sales page. What we just looked at is more of an overview of Kevin's influence. He's speaking, he's an entrepreneur, business owner, right? And then we go into the book sales page, which, you know, your book it's kind of like a baby, not to be weird, and that it has its own identity. It wants to be self-expressed. It wants to be sold and read and loved and distributed, right? So you've got to like let that book shine on your book sales page. And what we're seeing here is you can pop in, order your copy today. I'm going to tell you, don't just stop at one, because all book sale proceeds are going to the Council for Economic Education. Kevin, I'm going to pause here and let you speak into that a little bit more. What is that council and why did you choose that?
Well, I took a deep dive into 4 charities that I thought were really within my wheelhouse. I've always thought that financial literacy is something that's undertaught and too often not taught at all in schools. And there's I think there's a chapter about that in this book, but trying to educate the younger generation as far as budgeting and savings and understanding the stock market and making an impact. And the Council for Economic Education does just that. I mean, their focus is on helping young people learn about finance and helping their families and making it a fun event that's inclusive to really understand how to save, how to invest, the power of compounding. And it's an organization. I had a long chat yesterday with their director, Nan Morrison, who's phenomenal. And she'll be on a podcast on Covered Calls with Kevin Simpson next month, talking about what their annual initiative, where they rate each state as far as financial literacy for students. And there's so much free information and things for students to get off of that website, and investment clubs and challenges and games that it makes learning fun. And when you enjoy something and it's fun, it's a lot easier for you to remember it. And when I first got in the business, having gone through, 12 years of schooling that we do in public school and then college, my boss was like, you don't know anything. Nothing they taught you is real or relevant in the real world. So, your education starts today. And it really did. And he was right. But how much better would it have been if you had applications and true information that you were, brought up with. So that's the goal. So every penny we make on the book, we're giving to charity, and I would encourage everyone to buy it, early and often.
That's so awesome. I remember the day that you told me you wanted to do this, and I just thought it's such a good model for other authors to follow. So I want to thank you for your giving heart, for being socially conscious, for helping other people. It's just so important. Definitely the type of person that I want to spend life with. So thank you for that. So people, you can pre-order your copy today. If you click over to Amazon, you can get Kindle or hardcover. Of course, I got the hardcover. There's just something about a good hardcover. You know what I mean? You got to hold it in your hands. And again, this book is gorgeous. I'm about to show you a quick preview. And then you can come back to the website and access giveaways. So we actually designed giveaways for investors versus advisors. And then we also have a pretty powerful bulk buy offer here. If you get 12 copies, you're going to get access to a private presentation with Kevin. Kevin, do you want to speak into any of these giveaways that you are most excited about?
No, I thought you said it was 120 copies when I agreed to that. I didn't know. So,
120, everybody, rule change.
I think the idea is there's two audiences. You have the retail investor that what we hope we can do is match the retail investor with a qualified financial advisor that's a good fit. When you're working with a financial advisor, it's so important to get along with that person. It's like not just the mathematics or the finance, it's the ultimate relationship, because
agreed.
Next to your family or your health, I mean, your money's pretty far up there in terms of that important scale of life. So we want to be able to facilitate a partnership between the financial advisors we work with and introduce them to retail investors that may be looking for a good match. So with the advisor side, again, which is our world, our client base, and our business model, anything I can do to help their practice grow. Oftentimes it's doing presentations for clients or prospects, making myself available to answer questions or do presentations. It's different in the world of COVID with this virtual approach, but still it's been highly effective over the past 2 years, and we've been able to leverage it. So I look at it as a positive, not a negative. As far as the retail investors, we're trying to give a little bit more that maybe didn't fit in the book, just educational things, how to find financial advisors, how to make investments. And ultimately, like I said, if we can be that matchmaker, then we're completing that circle. And that's what we really want to do. We want to help our financial advisors, and we want to help retail investors. And for people that do it themselves, if I can educate them through this book, it's the process we use. It's not rocket science. I'm not Elon Musk going to Mars, but it's a really great strategy, and I'm proud to teach it.
Awesome. I really do appreciate that you can step in and improve that relationship, because honestly, I haven't heard of anybody else that's doing that. I'm sure that there are, but I haven't had that experience. And I know in my circles it's an important factor. So thank you for sharing that. You can come in and read a little bit more about the book itself. Of course, we're about to dive in even more into what is this book about. I just want to point out one more thing, that there are opportunities to buy additional bulk copies beyond just the 12. I'm going to flip through parts of the book as I ask Kevin my next question here, but just to offer you completion there. So Kevin, I'm going to just flip through this gorgeous book here while you answer a question. So the book covers two important strategies. One is writing covered calls and purchasing proven dividend-paying equities. What the heck does that mean?
It's a mouthful when you say it. It seems to roll off my tongue more naturally. But if you think about the challenge for baby boomers, the challenge is, how do we have enough money to retire? Because right now, interest rates are next to zero. I mean, they're super low. Granted, they've come up on a percentage basis on the 10-year from 1.5 to over 1.75 just at this year over a few days. But still, even at this level, it's very, very low. And as we look at the landscape of the next 2 years with the Fed that's going to be raising interest rates, but still,
I know
it's not going to be enough to retire. If you run the thesis out, maybe in 2 years, the 10 years at like 2.75, much higher than it is now, even if it's at 3%. It's still super cheap money in the scheme of things over the longer term history of the treasury market. So what we're trying to do is we're saying, how do you retire? And the problem, and maybe it shouldn't be a problem necessarily, is like people are so much healthier, we live longer, we're in retirement much longer, and the prices of goods, inflation, we're seeing it right now, that it doesn't necessarily slow down.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
What are you thinking about? The price of gas, Amber, or beer, or milk?
I go to the grocery store and it feels like my bill doubles, and I'm thinking, I'm not even walking away with anything really.
Yeah, it has. It's
unbelievable.
It's remarkable, the inflationary pressures at the supermarket and the gas tank. So those are the realities. Now you're living longer, and you need to have more money across this long retirement, which in a lot of cases is longer than people even spend in their work years. It was easy in the old days. You just die at your desk and they'd shove you out of the way and put someone else there. There wasn't a retirement problem. Then when they created Social Security, Amber, they did it with this idea that you'd be in it for 7 years, that you'd retire at 65 and then you would conveniently die at 72. Yeah. And the way that the population was structured, there was enough money there that you could kind of make ends meet for those 7 years. And it was a really good program. It made a lot of sense. But now, if you're going to be in retirement for 21, 28, 30 plus years, that's a lot more than the 7 years we had initially conjured up for this program. In fact, it's 3, 4, 5 times that. So you need to save for yourself. And you're not doing it with pensions. Traditional pensions no longer exist. They're a much smaller percentage of overall, the populace, for the most part, doesn't have traditional pensions anymore. So you save in a 401k, you save in an IRA, you save in a portfolio. Maybe you get started early and use a Robinhood app or an Acorn app or something where you're just learning about investments, which we're encouraging, not the speculative trading, but the actual investing and compounding over time. So the question, what are rising dividends in great companies, owning stocks that increase their dividends, help to provide a raise over time? Over the past 5 years, McDonald's was $121 a share 5 years ago. At the end of last year, it was $268. So that's like it's 120% return in 5 years owning McDonald's. It's awesome. But the dividend back then was a 3% dividend on the $1.20. So it was like a $2.14 dividend. Today it's like $2.50 and change, $5.50 and change. So it's more than doubled, right? So this dividend's gone up at a compounded annual growth rate of 8% a year. So it's like getting an 8% raise on your dividends just owning McDonald's. And if you had reinvested those dividends over that same 5-year period, instead of 120% return, you'd had 149% return. So that's what we try to teach, is the idea that dividend growth is the secret to generating cash flow, and the power of compounding is real. During that same 5-year period, the S&P 500 was up 133%. So McDonald's even outperformed that. Who thinks of McDonald's? You think of Apple and Microsoft. And
totally.
Google, but
McDonald's is an impressive company.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't love a nice hot order of fries? But the lesson there is the dividends are so important. And covered call writing, selling covered calls, that's a strategy that we use also to help reduce volatility, to protect a little bit of the downside and produce a little bit of extra cash flow. So between the cash flow of dividends and the cash flow of covered call writing, it can create some real income when you're at the stage of life, theoretically in retirement, where you're drawing off of what financial planners call the distributed phase of the financial planning process. So that got a little more technical than I intended, but you asked the question.
No, I think it's really important. And I really do appreciate you going into a little bit more detail, because this is a topic that a lot of people struggle with. They have resistance to it, but we all know it's important to lean in and navigate your way through it in order to, feel more safe or secure or have the life that you want. I mean, you were saying, there's nothing more important than your finances, because they play such an important role in your overall health and the well-being of your family. And when I read that in your book, I just thought, this man, love that, right?
Yeah.
So I really do encourage my community to get a copy of the book. Support Kevin. Come on. You know what it's like when you invest so much into something, you pour your guts into something, and you want the world to pay attention to it. So we definitely want to support him. But selfishly for you, I think it would behoove you to go subscribe to him on Twitter. Follow his podcast, look at his YouTube videos. There's a lot of content that he's giving out for free in addition to the book that can really allow you this year to lean in and no longer say, I have resistance to this. Do something about it, because then you can teach your children, your grandchildren, and you can change the future of your family, which is really important. Kevin, I know we're winding down on time, which is disappointing because I have like 8 other questions to ask you. So I guess I'll have to get $12 and maybe you'll let me into your private training presentation.
120.
I think I've already ordered 12, but maybe I'll get another 12 and invite a friend. But I do want to ask if you could share the meaning behind the title for you. And is there anything else in this book that you wish to convey to people? If you're on the stage right now, you have one opportunity, you're sharing it with the world. What do you really want to say? What does this title mean? What do you really want people to know?
So in the very first part of the book, I tell a story about my grandmother who really taught me about investing. And the concept of walk towards wealth has everything to do with not trying to make it all in one fell swoop. Sometimes you can be really lucky in gambling or speculating and even in investment trading. I mean, I know so many incredibly wealthy investors. I personally don't know any successful wealthy speculators or traders. So the message is that the true wealth is built over time, and it's just an old-fashioned technique. And there's no special quant. There's nothing different that we need to bring to the table. The old-fashioned rules that were established in Benjamin Graham's time, and then passed down to Warren Buffett and implemented by so many great portfolio managers today, is invest in companies that make money. If they can increase their profits, if they can increase their dividends, generally their stock prices will appreciate over time. So my grandmother, who was a first generation immigrant from Poland, who they were very, very of a very lower middle class, like very meager means. I didn't know that at the time. I thought they were rich, but that was just because of how I was raised within that family. But my grandmother passed away a number of years ago, but literally 2 years ago, I got an envelope in the mail. So I'm sitting at my desk and I get this letter. And I recognized the handwriting immediately. She's been gone for years. I'm like, what is this? And there's a check for $10,000 in there. I put a picture of it in the book because it's a true story.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what is this? So I read this letter that my grandmother had written to me, in 1990, like whatever, 20, 30 years previously. So she had written it back then. Granted, I could have used the money back in 1990. I'm sure much more than I could have now, but I would have squandered it and done something stupid with it. So she invested it. And maybe it was $1,000 or $1,200 in a zero coupon bond that matured to be worth $10,000. It was the greatest $10,000 I'll ever have. And I still have the check. And I cashed it. I asked my mom, and she's like, "You better cash it, or
Yeah.
get mad at you from the grave." So, but the point is, here's this woman of very meager means who taught me to invest and save wisely. And the application of experiencing that as an adult, like a grown man, getting this letter from my grandma, crying, looking at it, that I think maybe that's really what inspired me to write the book, was to take that story and then build upon it. That you don't have to be from the wealthiest family. We come from a very meager beginning. My father was a teacher, my mom didn't work. They gave me everything that I could possibly ask for, but except for a trust fund. But they did instill really a good hard work ethic in me. And that's what I think everyone can benefit from that story from my grandmother, is you can invest and save wisely. And as long as you have a long-term approach and you walk towards wealth, you can get there. It's achievable for everyone. And I just wanted to, share some of those stories to help people along the way.
I'm such a mushy person, but seriously, I love that. This speaks into who Kevin really is, because I think other people would have used that question to set up, all about me and buy from me and why I'm so great. And instead, he chose a very personal story about his grandmother and something that mattered to him, and he expressed his values to you. So thank you, Kevin. It just means so much that you put your trust in me to launch this book out into the world and your brand. I promise to support you every way that I can moving forward, because I really believe that people need this book. That's genuine from my heart. So please, to everybody watching, I really hope that you take a minute and share this live stream, share the book with your friends, post on social media. Let's do Kevin a solid here. Let's get the book out. And Kevin, happy launch day. Congratulations. It's great to be here with you.
It wouldn't be possible without you, Amber. Thank you. Also, Ryan and Jackie and Ashley behind the scenes, putting all this together, making me look brilliant and organized. I'm not half as nice as you think I am, or as organized as they make me appear to be. But like I said in the beginning, I surround myself by amazing people who are just so gifted and smart at what they do, and it makes me look good. I'm blessed, I'm fortunate, and I'm happy. And I think you told me we hit #1 today on day one. I mean, how cool is that? Let's keep selling books, and let's make a lot of money for the Council for Economic Education, because ultimately, there's no better story than that.
And guys, as we conclude, if there's a message in you that you feel called to get out to the world, I really hope that you follow in Kevin's footsteps here and just start writing. Just take action, because a year from now, 6 months from now, 3 years from now, this could be you up on a stage sharing your message with the world and impacting lives. I want to thank everybody for your time watching this live stream today. And remember, no guts, no glory. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone.